Alright guys, let's jump into the last section, expressions and equations. Let's start with number 15, simplifying expressions. Alright, so I'm looking to rewrite this expression in standard form. That means everything's combined. All like terms are put together. So if I look at it left to right, I have 17 minus 7 times 2x minus 3 plus 21 plus negative 4x. The most common thing students want to do first here is look at that 17 minus 7 and combine that. Forget everything else, right? If you did that first, you made a mistake. You did not follow your order of operations. 17 minus 7 cannot be done before I handle that multiplication there. So if I'm looking carefully, I see a negative 7 is being distributed to a 2x minus 3. All right, we always have to handle our multiplication first. So any distribution that has to be done before I combine it with addition and subtraction. So negative 7 times 2x, I get negative 14x. Negative 7 times negative 3, I want you to look at those as negative 7 times negative 3 because a negative times a negative is a positive 21. All right, that's another very common mistake. Students will not distribute that negative 7 there to the negative 3. They'll write minus 21 just because they see it there. But it's a negative 7 times a negative 3. Really careful there. And then I'm going to bring everything else down. Don't forget to bring down that 17 that was in front. Don't forget to bring down this next plus 21 and the plus negative 4x. Okay, all of that stuff has to come down. The only thing I handled so far was that distribution. All right. Next step, I want to start combining my like terms. All right, so I'm going to circle my like terms that have a variable or an x here. I have a negative 14x. Include the sign in front of your term because that tells you whether your term is positive or negative. And I have a negative 4x. All right, so I'm going to rewrite those in front. I have negative 14x and I have negative 4x. All right, and then I'm going to look at my constants. I have a positive 17, I have a positive 21, and I have another positive 21. So I'm going to write plus 17, plus 21, plus 21. Okay, we can now combine our like terms. They're nice and ordered. Negative 14x minus 4x is negative 18x. And then on the right side, I see 17 plus 21 plus 21, which is 59. That's it. That's standard form. I have all my terms with x's combined to negative 18x, and I have all of my constants combined to 59. Let's take a look at one more. This one has fractions. A lot of students are intimidated when they see fractions, but you guys know how to handle them, right? When we're adding and subtracting them, we need a common denominator. When we're multiplying them, we're typically just multiplying straight across. You could do some simplifying first if you want, but if you want to just multiply straight across, we could do that. All right, let's begin. All right, so first things first, I have some distribution I have to handle before anything. Always handle your distribution first. So negative 1/2 times 3x is going to be negative 3/2 x. And negative 1/2 times 8/9, remember that was a negative 1/2. So when I do a negative times a positive, I get a negative. And 1/2 of 8/9 is going to be 4/9. Some of you may have gotten 8/18, which is fine. It just simplifies to 4/9. Let's bring everything else down. So I had a minus 7/9 there. I had a 3/4 x there. Whoops. And I had a 2/3 x in front. All right. So I have 2/3 x plus 3/4 x minus 3/2 x minus 4/9 minus 7/9. Conveniently, all of my x terms are in front already, and all of my constants are towards the end. And actually, right now, my constants already have a common denominator. My variables, however, do not. So I need to think about what the common denominator between 3, 4, and 2 is. And that least common denominator would be 12. So let's scale everything to a fraction of 12. 2/3 scales up to be 8/12. 3/4 scales up to be 9/12. And 3/2 scales up to be 18/12. Don't forget your x's there. Some students I've seen in the past have forgotten their x's. Bring down the end, -4/9 and -7/9. We don't actually need our ninths to be scaled to a common denominator because I'm not trying to combine those constants with the variables. So I could almost think of these as two separate parts. You don't have to think of them together. All right, so let's combine our terms with variables. 8 plus 9 gets me to 17. So I have a 17/12 x minus an 18/12 x minus -4/9 and -7/9 together give me -11/9. All right, we still have a little bit of work to do. I have 17/12 minus 18/12, which is -1/12 x. And instead of -11/9, I'm going to write -1 2/9. All right, that's it. That's standard form there. If you had trouble with that, go ahead and take it from the top. Look back towards the beginning. If not, pause your video now and show your work for the next parts in the section. No work, no credit. All right, here we are. Let's look at the answers. 16, we get 2x plus 2. Again, be careful if you distributed a -3 incorrectly. That was a -3 there. So make sure that got distributed correctly. Number 17, -30x plus 205. Again, that was a -10. So when you distributed there, you should have gotten -30x, and you should have got plus 90. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. 18, you get -7/10x plus 1 27/40. And 19, you get -6x plus 3. All right, good job. Moving on.